and welcome to episode 38 of Life in General. My name is My name is Nick.
My name is Nick. I'm sorry, Ian.
Fuck.
Hey, I don't know what my name is. Fuck that.
Names? What exactly is a name? Why? What?
It's an identifier.
I know, I'm just being dumb.
Oh, what is it? What is it? A name?
Yeah.
Or rose by any other name?
Something like that. Any questions or comments you can email to our new email address, which is contact@lifeandjournalpodcast.com.
Did I know we had a new email address?
You should have.
Oh.
Because remember, we have our own email addresses through there, too. So if you want to email Ian, you can email him, Ian@lifeandjournalpodcast.com.
That's right. You can.
And I am Nick at lifeandjournalpodcast.com.
See, that's why I keep you around, because you know our names.
So yeah, check out our website, which is lifeandjournalpodcast.com. We've got all of our previous episodes on there. You can check us out on iTunes, Podbean, Google Play Music, TuneIn Radio, Podcast Addict, Stitcher. Hopefully pretty soon we'll be on iHeartRadio and
maybe Spotify.
We've applied to be on through those services right now, so we're waiting to hear back.
Yep.
So maybe some new stuff coming down the pipe, I guess.
Yeah.
But
new show ideas we're working on too.
Yeah. We got some other stuff we're working on.
Yeah.
So this is the 38th episode of the show, right?
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure this is the first episode ever where I did not have any notes coming into it. I pulled an Ian. We kind of switched roles because Ian actually has notes.
I have some notes. I came half prepared,
somewhat prepared, and
yes.
I came like zero prepared. So,
yeah.
Well, this is your kind of this was your topic idea anyway. So
True.
I'll just kind of let you run with it.
Well, don't let me run.
Yeah, because Lord knows Ian dies out pretty quick.
Yes, I do.
So, what made you think of this show topic?
Well, it's actually a lot of times when I'm bored or at night or have nothing else to do. We've talked about it. I watch a lot of conspiracy theory videos, but I actually also watch a lot of like unsolved murders and mysterious disappearances.
Yeah.
Creepy videos, internet videos, things like that. So I thought it'd be fun to talk about a little bit.
Yeah, and I always liked it because Unsolved Mysteries was a big show when I was growing up.
Right.
And we always watched every week, and it was I was always interested by all that kind of stuff too. So
yeah, I mean it's always sad because these are real people, and it's if you have any empathy at all, it's tough to get entertainment pleasure out of it. But
some of it's just really fucked up.
It's just it's fucked up and crazy, and I guess like just with any other type of entertainment that in a sense capitalizes on other people's pain, you detach yourself a little bit.
Yeah.
But that all that being said, these are situations, and maybe talking about it, maybe some of these cases eventually could be solved. You never know.
Yeah, and there if you like this kind of stuff, there's a bunch of podcasts out there that cover this stuff.
A lot of true crime podcasts will cover stuff like some of the things we might talk about today. I haven't found too many podcasts that focus on like the creepy unsolved stuff that I kind of prefer, but
really?
A lot of true crime stuff.
Yeah,
that have the elements. Involved.
One that kind of stood out to me when I was kind of going through there was in 1922. There was this family. I know we've talked about this one before too. There was this family. I can't pronounce the name of this town. It's some little town in Germany,
just outside of Munich. I think.
70 kilometers north of Munich. It's Hinterkaifeck or something like that.
Yeah.
So Andreas Gruber lived in his house with his wife, and they were older. Yeah. They were in their 60s, I think.
So he was for sure.
Yeah,
they were young. They had young children.
No, they didn't. I want to say he was like in his 60s. One of them was in their 60s, and the other was in their like early 70s. I want to say they lived there with their widowed daughter.
That's okay. That's
she was in her mid 30s, and then her 3 children. Yes. Right? Yeah,
and a maid / nanny.
Yeah, but okay. Well, I'll get to that. I'll get to that though. So in 1922, Andreas is out back. It must have been in the wintertime.
It was, yep.
And he saw some footprints going from the woods into the back of his house.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But he walked around, didn't see any other footprints, and after the fact, a day or two later, had made a mention to some of his neighbors about it also. And no one had kind of seen anything or heard anything. And then the family, over the next couple of days, heard noises and footsteps up in the attic, right?
But they never found anything.
No. But Andreas, however you say his name was, he did find a newspaper that no one in the house had bought.
Right.
And this prompted the maid to leave.
Right.
No, I'm sorry. No, that's not what prompted her to leave.
Well, I know she left.
She left prior to that because she
thought
she thought the house was haunted.
Okay.
I actually read into this more.
Okay.
So she thought she actually left 6 months prior to them being murdered.
Okay.
So she left 6 months earlier, like I said, because the house was haunted. And then they find these footprints in the back.
Mm-hmm.
They had just hired a new nanny to help. It was her first day.
Yep.
She'd been there like 6 hours. And so one by one, they went out into the barn. For some reason, one by one, they went out in the barn and they were murdered.
Right.
With a pickaxe.
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
And
what
then,
I've read, there wasn't that much detail as to what order, but the whole family and the nanny.
Yeah. So then, so everyone except for the smallest two children
were found in the barn.
One of the kids, I think it was one of the kids and the nanny were found in the house.
Right.
Everyone else was found in the barn.
Right. Under straw. I mean, they were kind of covered
up. And the one kid, they said, survived for several hours after the fact.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know the story, but I didn't know it that in depth. But.
So and no one was ever.
They never know. But I do know a little. The neighbors claim that, which they found out after the fact, that after the murders took place for 2 or 3 days, because they weren't found for days.
Yeah, actually, it was several days later. The postman drove by and realized that the paper hadn't moved.
It moved, right. But the neighbors noticed smoke coming from the chimney for several days leading up to them getting found.
Yeah.
So somebody was living there.
Yeah, because
while the people were dead.
Well, yeah. What tipped them off was the kids didn't show up for school.
Right.
The next week.
So yeah, it's definitely a crazy, and I mean, obviously from the 20s, they're never going to know how.
No. And there's been they're still investigating. I did read that the most recent person that they had interviewed regarding the case was in like 1986. Right. So for decades and decades after, they were still working on it. Yeah. And it was a huge crime, in Germany at the time.
Well,
I just think it's really what's really kind of twisted about it is.
I think
why would you not go up in the attic? If I'm in my house
and you hear noises,
I
thought they had done some investigating, but
they couldn't have.
Yeah, it's hard to say. But I mean,
then again, if they think the house is haunted,
they might not go up.
It
was the 20s. It's still early in the 20th century. I mean, there's still people who think that shit's haunted now. But
and if you're really twisted into it, you can find the crime scene photos online.
Yeah, they're there. It's not the ones I've seen aren't very graphic. You can see the bodies kind of under the hay in the barn, and there's some. I think there's one image from upstairs. You don't see the children, which is good because I think one of the children were very young.
Yeah,
like under 5. So I don't know. But yeah, that was one of the first ones I ever came across too. Kind of piqued my interest into this, unsolved world. So,
I was trying to see the ages. So he was 63.
Okay.
The wife was 72. The widowed daughter was 35, and then the kids were 7 and 2.
Okay,
so there's 2 kids.
I knew
7, 2, and then the nanny was 44.
Okay, I knew one of the children was very young.
Yeah.
So yeah,
What was one that what kind of?
Well, a couple that I took notes on. I mean, these were ones that actually kind of new to me. I think even the ones I wrote down. One of them I'm not. It was one was a man named John Hill who owned a laundromat, and he was found dead, stabbed and shot. They never found out who did it, and they assumed it was a robbery gone wrong. But whoever had done it had written in the victim's blood on the wall, "Black Older."
Really?
Yeah, just that alone. Because I mean,
wonder what that's supposed to mean.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, then they weren't 100% sure because the B was smudgy, so that it was either B as in black, or whatever they meant to write, they had messed up and started over, and it would have just been lack. They don't know for sure 100% what the message was supposed to convey.
Huh.
That's kind of creepy. There's another one, Tracy Nelson. Her husband came home and found her dead in their apartment on her birthday. And the only evidence they had for the murder was a cable repair ticket that was signed for that day.
Uh-huh.
And they could never identify who did the repair.
Really?
Yeah. So they had a repair ticket, so they assumed that's how the killer, if it was the killer, got in. Because there's no sign of entry.
What year did this take place?
81.
81. And
Yes.
where at?
I don't remember where it was. It was in the States, obviously. And then this one was kind of more on the creepier side. Gary Grant Jr., he was 7 years old.
7?
7. He left the house, and he said that he had an appointment. When he told his mom he was leaving, he goes, "I had an appointment." They didn't think much of it. This was in 85, if memory serves.
So this was after Adam.
Yeah, this would have been. Yeah, I mean the stranger danger thing was still was probably in high gear, but not a lot of parents took that to account even then.
Yeah.
But he left on his bike, and he had a friend who was 12 years old.
Did you say where this took place either?
I didn't remember.
Gosh, you're a bad historian.
I didn't know we were doing historical documentation, Nick. If you wanted more insight,
okay,
go
on with the fucking story.
Probably should have done this in 2 weeks. But he was found. He was found dead in a warehouse, and they arrested a 12-year-old who was his friend, who suffered from mental disability.
Okay.
And they assumed that it was him, even though he passed a polygraph test. They still arrested him. But they ended up ended up letting him go eventually. The police got a letter, or it wasn't a letter. It was written in mud on a police car. And then I should point out this Gary Grant Jr., his father is a police officer.
Okay.
And it was written on a police car in mud. And it said, "Gary Grant is dead. I am living. Another will die on January 12th if all goes right." And January 12th was the anniversary of 1-year anniversary or 2-year anniversary of Gary Grant Jr.'s death.
Okay.
And then another message was left. No one died on the 12th, by the way, that they know of. Another message was put on another police car and said, "Gary Grant lives. I still killed him. Son of a pig. Payback is a motherfucker."
Really?
So now they're assuming that it could have been someone that the father had arrested.
Yeah.
Years later, having found no clues, nothing else, no other messages, the father, who was still investigating, he was retired at this point, was going through a bunch of 911 tapes and stuff.
Uh-huh.
And he came across a 911 tape, and you can hear it online. And it, let me see, my handwriting's really terrible.
No, really?
This is dated March 8th, 1986. So the tape was, and he's listening to this, I think in the early 2000s.
Uh-huh.
And it was a man who called into 911 and asked if he could collect the reward on himself for the murder of Gary Grant Jr.
Really?
And the operator said, "Let me put you through to the detectives." And he said, "No, that's okay. Just tell them that this is not a prank. Make sure that," this is a quote, "that's okay. Just make sure they know this isn't a prank and they are never going to catch me."
Really?
Yeah, he called 911 around that time that they were looking for the murderer.
Wow, and no one
noticed it. I don't know. They never said in what I was watching. It was on YouTube. They never said why this tape was not presented as evidence early on.
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming maybe the 911 reporter assumed it was a prank.
Yeah.
But that's
still
not
that should be reported.
She should have taken that, and it shouldn't have gotten lost in a mix of tapes.
Yeah.
So I think the father has since passed away, but
Okay.
he was investigating his son's death until he died.
Wow.
So
That's crazy.
yeah. That's all I've got written down, but I got a few others that I from memory. I'll butcher the details probably slightly.
Well, there was one that I read was from 2013, and I know we've talked about this one also. Elisa Lamb.
Mm-hmm.
So she was found dead inside of a hotel rooftop water tank.
Yep.
So apparently, surveillance video. It doesn't say where she was.
It's in California.
Is it in California?
Yeah, it's in California.
So apparently, surveillance video was found of her the night she disappeared, but it only caused it caused more confusion because it didn't really show anything.
Right.
So she's seen walking into the elevator, and then she's hiding, and like peeking out the front door of it,
right.
like she's afraid of somebody, like someone's following her.
Right.
And then that's it.
Well, she runs out. But here's the creepy
Did
thing.
she run out?
She does.
I didn't see the video.
She
I
goes
just saw
out.
still
I've
pictures
watched it a few times. This is why it's such a mystery. First of all, they're not really sure if she was murdered or if it was suicide. She had no history of mental illness, but she had been seeing a psychiatrist.
Yeah.
At the time, and she was a student, so there's stress involved. But what's creepy is she walks into the elevator and pushes a button. I don't know if she's pushing the hold button or if she's pushing a floor button, but the door does not shut. And she stands there just normal for, I'm going to say, a good 20 seconds before she does anything, just because she's waiting for the door to shut. That's my impression.
Yeah.
That's when she starts peeking out the door like somebody's coming, but she keeps, as she's doing it, it gets more and more. You can't tell if it's playful or anxious.
Yeah.
Because she's like jumping out the door, like trying to catch somebody.
Really?
And it, like I said, it kind of comes off as anxious, but it could also be playful. And then she leaves the elevator, and that's the last time she's seen. Not 2 or 3 seconds after she leaves the elevator door shuts. So my question is, why was the elevator door open? No one ever talks about that.
So I wonder if she was holding the button for it to stay open.
She wasn't touching the button. She only pushed one button, and she just pushed it like she was hitting a floor button. And why would the door shut on its own? If you're holding the door, wouldn't you have to hit another button?
I have been in elevators before the doors take forever.
Forever,
to close.
but why would it sit there idle the whole time she's doing this freaking out thing?
Yeah. Was
And
it
then
more? Was it more than like 15 seconds or?
Oh
20
yeah,
seconds?
the video goes on for probably close to a minute, at least,
Really?
if not 2. The whole time she's freaking out, and then literally like seconds after she leaves, the elevator door shuts. You never see shadows. You never see anyone else other than her.
That's really weird.
But I've noticed no one ever asks that question. Why does that elevator door stay open the whole time until she leaves and then it shuts?
Huh.
And then she's never seen again until she's found in the water. What's gross about that is what led them to the water tank was the fact that people were getting a weird smell and taste from their water.
Yeah.
So they were drinking rotted flesh water.
That's disgusting.
Bathing in it, yeah. But I guess that hotel has a history, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there's been other weird incidences, murders, suicides.
Really?
At that hotel, yeah.
Speaking of stuff like that, I don't remember exactly where it's at, but it's somewhere, I think it's somewhere in Ireland or Scotland. I'm doing this off the top of my head.
Right.
There's a bridge somewhere in that area where, for some reason, and there's like no water underneath this bridge. It's like sharp rocks.
Uh-huh. It's got a high volume of suicides?
No. It's dogs. Dogs jump off this bridge and kill themselves all the time.
Huh.
And it's just the strangest thing.
Yeah, that's fascinating. Those are the things that I'm not a superstitious person. I've made that very clear on the show many times. I don't necessarily subscribe myself to the idea that ghosts exist and all that. But there are unexplained things in this world, at least as yet unexplained, and those things do fascinate me quite a bit.
Well, something along those lines that it's not like scary or nothing, but apparently, so there's this town in New Mexico, where you can hear this audible buzz or hum, and they can never figure out where it's coming from. Like they've done all these tests. It's out in the desert. It's out in the desert. Yeah, I got a picture of it up on the computer. But no one knows what's causing the sound. It's kind of strange.
It is strange.
Just off the top of my head, I can assume that's probably the wind
going through one of the canyons or something,
or coming across the desert in a weird way,
or it's the aliens, the alien ships.
Because it is New Mexico, right. So yeah, you're probably right.
The desert. The desert's going to have.
That's where the aliens hang out.
Right. I don't know if I subscribe myself to those ideas either. I think we talked about that a bit before too. But one that's kind of a sad one. I believe it happened in the 70s. The 3 Girl Scouts. I don't know if you ever came across these. This Girl Scout troop was having a camp out, and it was in the woods, and I think they had bunched everyone up in threes and in tents. And one of the tents, which happened to be on the kind of the outskirts of the camp, had 3 little girls in it. And when everyone woke up the next morning, the 3 girls were gone. They ended up finding their bodies in the woods shortly thereafter, very brutally murdered.
Really?
Yeah. And no physical evidence other than their murders and sexual assault, unfortunately. Yeah. And they were young. I mean, they were like 8, 9 years old.
I read something similar to that. Well, it wasn't really similar to that, but it was from Russia. It was sometime in the 1900s, mid-1900s. The group of, I think it was 9 of them, because 9 people had gone out on like a skiing adventure, and no one ever saw them again. And then someone stumbled across their camp, and the tent was ripped apart from the inside.
Yeah, I came across that one, yeah.
And all of them died in really weird ways. Like one guy had his tongue cut off.
And they found one naked, just laying in the snow in like a fetal position.
Yeah.
No other injuries.
No. Well, he wasn't naked. He was wearing underwear.
Well, still, I mean.
Underwear and his socks.
Yeah, but just laying in the snow like he had just laid down and went to sleep.
Yeah, another one was burned to death. It was just
weird
really
stuff.
Strange, but they have this theory that it's kind of the same thing like in New Mexico. They said there's some kind of noise in that region of Russia that you can't really you can't hear it, but there's some.
It throws your equilibrium off.
Yes, and they said it can cause deliria and
there's
all sorts of other stuff.
There's a movie, I may have mentioned it a couple times. It's called Irreversible. It's a French film, I think. It's pretty intense. It's difficult to watch, and I mean, just subject matter. There's a scene. The movie goes backwards, kind of like Memento.
Okay.
But not in a clever way. I mean, it's clever. It's a well done movie in most respects, but it just skips. It just jumps, and it goes backwards. But there's a very brutal rape scene in that movie. Very brutal. I will never watch that movie again because it was so hard for me to watch.
Really?
But apparently, the filmmakers put this slight inaudible sound in there while that scene was playing that's supposed to induce nausea.
Really?
And I don't remember feeling nauseous, but it was very fucking hard to watch. So, I mean, there is some truth to the psychology of certain
noises,
wavelengths and sounds, yeah. So,
I stumbled across another one. It's actually from the Detroit area.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've got one local too.
It was from, so in 1976 and 77, there were 4 kids from the Detroit area who were between the ages of 10 and 12, who were murdered by an unknown serial killer. Now, they never caught the guy.
Is that the one that they've been recently talking about?
I don't know.
Well, there was that dig that was going on in Macomb County.
Oh, yeah, I don't know.
They were looking for 3, I think they said 3 bodies.
Really?
Young girls They think they know who did it. He's already in prison. He's the one who told them to find them there.
Well, these two were
dug
2
for
boys and 2
weeks.
girls.
Oh, this was just girls, so it's different.
So their bodies, they were dumped in public areas.
Okay.
One was dumped within sight of a police station.
Really?
Yeah. So, but the parents of one of the victims had gone on TV, and said that if when their son came home, they wanted to give him, they'd feed him KFC, which was his favorite meal.
Yeah, I've heard about this one. Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then, so once they found the 4 bodies, they did an autopsy on one of the kids, and
well, they probably autopsied all of them, but yeah.
Yeah. But when they did the autopsy, they found that the one kid whose parents were on TV, the serial killer fed him KFC before they killed him.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely heard about that one. This was a local. This was very recent, and they actually do have a suspect. But last summer, a girl, she was in her 20s, Egypt Covington, and she lived in Belleville.
Okay.
Was found tied up in her house and shot in the head.
I remember that.
Yeah. It's the reason I bring it up is because I actually know people who know her personally.
Yeah.
And I guess I ran into her where I worked because she shopped there. I don't remember seeing her, but apparently she shopped there. So, there's nothing really like it was just it's a close to home situation. They still don't know who did it. I'm not a criminal psychologist, but if what I hear, she was tied up with Christmas lights and shot in the head.
That's weird.
That's weirdly personal.
Yeah.
But also weirdly, it's almost like choking somebody. They say that's an intimate. It's intimate in the sense that they were tied up, and obviously it's an ongoing investigation, but I think it's her ex-boyfriend they have as a suspect,
really?
A person of interest. But yeah, as of right now, her murder is unsolved. And like I said, just because it's close to home.
Mm-hmm. How old was she? Pretty young?
She was young, in mid-20s.
Yeah.
27 maybe. And well-liked. They say that about a lot.
Yeah,
she was well-liked and had lots of friends, was very active. I think she'd won some singing competitions in Michigan.
Okay. So,
she was, potentially a rising person, and had a good future ahead of her. So, but yeah, the one I brought up before we started, I started thinking about it. Like, I'll go to the details a little bit. I tried finding it for some reason when I first started watching all these videos, this one would come up all the time, and for some reason today or last night when I was trying to find it, I couldn't find it. I still haven't been able to. But this young girl went missing. I'm pretty sure they found her dead. But at some point, her father had gotten a phone call from a guy, and it was on the anniversary. And all the phone call said was happy anniversary. Well, another guy had made a YouTube video, for the same day, doing the same thing. And I don't remember if they actually made the connection that it was the same guy, but for some reason they could never connect him to the murder. He did it on the second anniversary, too.
Yeah.
But it's weird that the father got a phone call on the anniversary of his daughter's death saying happy anniversary.
Yeah, that's weird.
And yeah,
what year did this take place?
This was in the 2000s.
Okay.
This was pretty recent. Relatively recent. It was one of those just creepy ones that it makes you wonder, because you can watch the YouTube video. If I could find it, I'd tell you where to go, but you can see the YouTube video of the guy doing the happy anniversary.
Really?
And he could very well be the murderer. And it's there.
There's some really creepy people out there, though. Like, I remember back in the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s, there was this girl out in California. She was 18, 19 years old, something like that. Came from a very wealthy family. And she had gotten a fight with her parents, right? And so she stole her dad's sports car. And she was doing like 140, 160, whatever it was, down this highway in California when she lost control, hit part of a bridge, and completely destroyed the car.
And she tried to die.
Oh, yeah. Her body was ripped apart. But somehow crime scene photos that the police took on the scene were made it on the internet or whatever. So people were, for a long time, were emailing these pictures of their daughter's shredded body to them daily.
That's insane.
And it was a bunch. It came from a bunch of different email addresses. Finally, they ended up like cutting off communication with everything and like moved out of state, out of middle of nowhere. But they have no internet. They're not online or nothing because
that's what they.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of not kind of off topic, but did you ever hear about the Bjork, the singer Bjork, her stalker guy?
Vaguely.
Okay, he would make YouTube videos to her, praising her, talking about her music and stuff, and he would send her letters and stuff. And obviously, he never met her.
Yeah.
Well, he got it in his head that the only way they could be together is if they died. So he built a bomb and mailed it to her, and then made a video of him killing himself while listening to her song. And it's literally the song, the last note of the song, he blows his brains out. And he shaved his head and everything. I mean, he was nuts. And they invested they found his body, they found the note, they found the videos, they investigated, they found the package right before it got to her house.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was a bomb. It was like a makeshift bomb, but it was an explosive device.
Wow. That's fucked up.
Isn't it? I mean, that's just, there's a lot of fucked up people in this world.
So, going back to these crazy ass stories, there was another one I saw that I thought was really, really kind of strange. So back on Christmas Eve, 1945, I'm trying to see where this place. See, a lot of these don't give locations. Now that I'm actually looking at it.
A lot of times they don't.
So it says the house belonging to George and Jenny Sauter burnt to the ground.
I heard about this one when I was going through my taking notes.
Okay, well, I'll go through this and then I'll go into some detail that I found out after the fact. I did some more digging into it. It says after the fire, five of their children were missing. They had 10 kids.
Yep.
So 5 of the kids were missing and presumed dead. However, no remains were ever found, and the fire had produced no smell of burning flesh.
And they don't believe it had been hot enough to actually destroy completely.
Yeah, they said scientifically it's impossible that they wouldn't have found any kind of remains. Right. But the fire was ruled an accident. I guess they blamed it on faulty lights on the Christmas tree. Mm-hmm. But there's still questions around that also.
Obviously, yeah.
But it said 1968, the family received a bizarre note and photo, supposedly from their son Louis.
And the picture they think was him.
Yeah. It said the envelope was postmarked from Kentucky with no return address, but they never found anything else.
Right.
But they hired a private investigator to go and look into try to track him down.
Yeah.
The private investigator disappeared.
Really?
Yeah.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
Because I didn't know that much about it. I knew the details up to the note and the picture, but I didn't know about the.
So yeah, he disappeared, and no one ever heard from him again.
Huh.
That's fucked up.
That's like some Psycho stuff.
Yeah.
No, I say Psycho. I mean the movie Psycho, because they send that private investigator and he gets killed by Norman.
Yeah.
So. But yeah, that's creepy. That is creepy. I don't know if any other I'm sure because I've watched a shit ton of these videos. A lot of them aren't, they're just typical, probably people just gone missing. But there's some that I've watched where there's surveillance footage. It's kind of creepy. There's this one, I don't know what country he was from and which country he was in. It was all European countries. But him and his friends went on vacation.
Uh-huh.
And the one kid ends up getting into a bar fight. And there's some damage to his ear. So he can't fly when they're supposed to fly back. Uh-huh. The doctors recommend he doesn't fly. So he says, well, I'll stay for another week or whatever, and I'll just fly back then. So his friends leave him there.
First off, that's fucked up. I would never leave.
I know. I mean, I guess if it depends. They were young. They were in their 20s.
Yeah.
And this is in the 2000s. So I mean, it's not like, I don't know. You see enough movies, you worry.
Yeah.
But anyway, so he says that's fine. I'll stay, and he stayed. I think 2 days before he's supposed to come back, his mom gets a call, and he says he thinks he's being followed. And he doesn't know. He's just really freaked out. And that's the last time she hears from him. Well, there's surveillance footage of him going to the airport on the day he's supposed to fly home.
Uh-huh.
And he walks in calmly. You see him walk in calmly with his bag. And a few minutes later, you see him run out of the airport without his bag and running. They've got surveillance footage following him all the way out of the airport, running down the sidewalk. And he's never heard from again.
Really?
Yeah.
They never find his.
They never found any sign of him ever again.
So he might just disappear.
Yeah, but it's the creepiness of it.
Yeah.
The fact that he claims he was being followed, the fact that he goes to the airport calmly and just a couple minutes later leaves without his stuff,
Yeah.
running like somebody's after him, and no one's following him. We don't see anybody following him. But he's never heard from again.
That's creepy.
Yeah.
There was I remember something. I guess it's not quite like that, but there was it was from Melbourne, I think is where it was from. The guy's name was Sam Borg.
That one doesn't sound familiar.
He was a cafe owner, and he was found beaten to death in his bedroom. That was the May of 1960.
Okay.
But apparently he knew to fear for his life, because when they found him, the door to his room was nailed shut from the inside, and there was a loaded gun under his pillow. But apparently he forgot to lock the window.
Oh.
Killer came in.
I was going to ask how they get in and out.
Killer came in through the window and killed him.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's another creep, because obviously he knew something was happening.
Yeah.
Someone was after him. Speaking of Australia, did you ever hear of the unidentified guy on the beach? This isn't really creepy, but it's weird.
Is that the gray guy or whatever they call him?
No, the gray man was Albert Fish, the serial killer. They call him the gray man.
No. There was another one. They never found out who he was, but he was just a.
Yeah, well, maybe I don't know. I don't remember them
remember.
calling him anything like that. But he was found on the beach. Everyone thought he was just a homeless guy, but he was wearing a suit,
Uh-huh.
and he was just sleeping up against the seawall on the beach. And after a while, they realized he was dead. He had no identification on him whatsoever, and this was in the 40s when they find him.
Uh-huh.
And to this day, he's unidentified. He's just lying there dead.
Really?
And then there was
Did they know what killed him, or?
No, I don't know if they did an autopsy back then, but as far as I know, they don't. Then there's the other one where I can't remember his name. They knew who he was, but there's surveillance footage of him on his last day going about just kind of normal stuff. I mean, some of it was off for him, but it's just kind of normal stuff by anyone else's standards. He goes to some shops. He goes to, I think this was in the UK. You see him taking money out of his ATM, I think. And then he's found the next day on the beach, completely naked, dead. And his clothes are found a short ways away from him. Not the same clothes that he's in the surveillance video, and they don't suspect that he went home. They don't know how the clothes changed.
Really?
But in his possessions, the only thing in his possessions was his wallet with a photograph of himself when he was a child, and all his clothes were folded up.
Huh.
But they assumed he drowned.
That's
so
weird.
who folded his clothes? Who put the picture of him as a young child? I mean, who carries around a picture of themselves as a child?
Yeah.
That's just kind of weird.
It is.
And so that's another kind of weird, mysterious one that I've come across.
Huh. There was one that I remember from. It was in the late 80s. Down in Florida, somewhere in Florida. A lady was at a gas station, and was walking in the gas station. Just happened to look down, and there's Polaroid on the ground. She picked it up.
Yep. I was going to bring this one up too. I forgot about
two kids that were
abducted.
Yeah.
Well, they were tied up.
They were tied up,
and one of the girls, they think the girl. It was a girl and a young boy.
Uh-huh.
They think they know the identity of the girl
because
she had gone missing.
But her favorite author, a book by her favorite author, is sitting next to her on the bed.
But she had lost weight, and the picture obviously was taken of her
a year after she disappeared.
And the lady who said that, she had identified a white van parked next to her and a man with a mustache driving, and she suspected that that's where the picture came from, because the van was gone when she found the picture.
Yeah.
I mean, that's creepy in and of itself, because the girl is bound and gagged and the boy is tied up. What's creepy is they don't know the identity of the boy.
No.
They've never been able to identify that boy.
No.
And it's obvious that if whoever's left that was probably playing with people, so they're probably no longer alive.
Oh, I'm sure.
So yeah, that was another one I came across that was that was one of the, let's say one of the top 10 or 15 that I found first.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that one's been making the rounds a lot. Trying to think, there's some that are real. Like I said, I wish I would have been able to stay up longer, because there were quite a few that, I mean, not necessarily murder or just a lot of them are disappearances.
Well, how about this one? Do you know why we have tamper-proof caps on our medicine?
I assumed it's because children were getting into the medicine and eating it.
No, because in the early 80s in Chicago, someone laced Tylenol with cyanide.
Yep.
And killed like 10 or 12 people, whatever it was.
Yep.
Which caused a panic. Tylenol pulled hundreds of millions of dollars of product off of shelves, and they never found out or identified anybody. Yeah,
I forgot about that one. Yeah, that's creepy, because I mean you don't think about that when you're buying your medicines.
No,
But yeah, let me just.
There's another one that I came across. There's a highway out in British Columbia, up in Canada. That's from the late '60s until 2006. There were 18 women that have either been killed on the stretch of road, and they call it the Highway of Tears. They've got this gigantic billboard up that tells women, "Do not hitchhike on this road."
Because you could die. See, and you hear those things and you think.
Oh, and there. After I looked at this real quick, it said that American serial killer Bobby Jack Fowler, which is kind of strange. Yeah. My son's name is Jack Fowler, who died in 2006, is suspected of carrying out
most of those murders.
Some of those murders, yeah.
And
there's a lot of women that have gone missing on that road also.
And that's what I was going to say. I mean, you hear when there's such a high level of consistency, especially in one area, all you can really think of is it's probably a serial killer.
Yeah.
But then I've also been thinking about it. I watched that show Mindhunter on Netflix, which was really good, and it's kind of a fictionalized retelling of how the FBI developed its behavioral science division and how it started to analyze. It shows the introduction of the term serial killer.
Yeah.
It's fictionalized in a sense, but a lot of the details are accurate. And I started thinking about it. In the 70s and 80s, that was kind of the height of the serial killer thing. I mean, that's when they were. I mean, you look at a lot of the serial killers that we know of that have been caught were active in the 70s and 80s.
Yeah.
And I think about it now. I think serial killers would have to be very clever to get away with it now, with all of the
advanced. You think so?
Yeah, I mean, you see these disappearances and stuff like that. And you think, well, it's probably real easy, but it's not. There's surveillance cameras everywhere. The forensics and the DNA, all that the science stuff is in place. It's almost impossible to not leave some trace of the
look at that serial killer that they just finally caught on California that they've been looking for years.
Well, he was a serial rapist / killer.
Okay, but still.
But his crimes go back to the 70s, and he hasn't been active for a long time. I mean, granted, he's old now, but again, it makes me wonder if it's even. Have we gotten to the point where we may have been able to finally kind of stop that kind of crime, or are they just getting more clever?
Yeah, I don't know.
Because you can't just abduct. I mean, Ted Bundy, most of the people he abducted was in broad daylight. Yeah,
you wouldn't get away with that kind of stuff for very long.
And I mean, with cell phones and GPS and everything else, Gacy wouldn't have gotten away with half of the victims he got away with.
No.
Because people would have known where they were.
Yeah.
Dahmer, same thing. They would have been caught way sooner in this day and age.
And that's why I wonder if we'll ever get to a point where they'll like put GPS chips in people.
I can see a very small benefit to it. I can, at least with children.
Well,
I would much rather have it in children, but I think once they reach a certain age, they should be allowed to turn it off or remove it.
You wouldn't have missing people anymore.
Well, I'm sure you get someone clever enough, they'd find a way to fry the chip or whatever.
Yeah.
But it would. But see, that's the thing. I mean, those are the things that we're getting to that point. Children as young as 13, 14 have cell phones now. So you can track their movements.
My 11-year-old does.
Exactly. So, I mean, movements can be tracked. Are we going to... I mean, and I'm asking this because this is a good thing. I mean, we're going to get to the point where... And just our mental health standards now. I mean, granted, it's all medication, and I'm not sure if that's quite the answer.
Yeah.
But it is for a lot of people. Will we ever get to the point where these kinds of things will stop happening? Do you think that level, that type of crime, those
they won't happen to that kind of to the frequency that they did before,
which I don't think they do now. I mean, I think we're already at that point.
I think crime in general has dropped. I mean, kidnappings have dropped.
But the serial killer, that kind of random yet driven type killing.
No,
I mean, I don't want to use serial killer because it's almost a cliche now. But
I think they kind of moved on. Instead of because a lot of that was, when they get caught, it's going to be, they're going to give me this name and I'm going to get all this publicity. And now, if you want to do that, you just take your gun and you go do a mass shooting, and
True.
You get the same thing. You get the same effect.
Right, but with serial killers, there's usually a personal dynamic to it.
There is,
whether it be sexual or whatever. You don't necessarily get that with a mass shooting. And for a lot of the serial killers, a lot of them kind of got off on the fact that they weren't being caught.
Yeah.
That they were doing this all under the noses of the police and everything else. But
I just wonder
nowadays
I
see it different. I mean, granted, I'm glad I see it as almost impossible to do it because, I mean, it says a lot about our society's growth. But excuse me. It's just I kind of was thinking about that while I was watching that show because, like I said, it takes place in the 70s, and I'm thinking there's no way. They show a couple cases that were real life cases, but they weren't solved quite the way they were shown in the movies or in the show. But they were real life cases. They have actors portraying real life serial killers. And I'm just thinking, there's no way these guys would have gotten away with this. Even, I mean, they didn't get away with it then.
Yeah.
But they would have gotten caught much sooner. They never would have gotten to that point to be as prolific as they were. Mm-hmm. Specifically, I can't remember. There's one killer. They show him periodically through the first season because he wasn't caught until the 90s, I think.
Yeah.
I can't remember his name. But anyway, I mean, he would have been caught sooner. He was a serial rapist / murderer too. He started with rape, but the BTK killer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. There's no way he would have gone as long as he did because he almost got caught then.
Yeah.
Because he got sloppy a couple times. And I just, like I said, with forensics and everything else, I just don't see how it could work. And I mean, I don't want to know how it works. I don't want to. It's not like I have any desire to do it, but I'm just curious how if we will have in our lifetime that period where there are no more serial killers.
Yeah.
At least they're so rare as to almost be insignificant.
Yeah. We probably are at that point.
I think so too. I would like to think so.
Yeah. On kind of a side note a little bit, do you remember the movie Changeling with Angelina Jolie?
No. I know of it. I never saw it.
Really?
Yeah, I never saw it.
You did see it because we watched it together. I'm pretty sure. But
I don't remember. I must have fallen asleep.
Her son disappears. Her young son disappears.
I know the story.
Well, I didn't know it was a true story.
Yeah, I knew it was a true story.
I didn't.
Or at least based on a true story.
So
I don't
her,
know how accurate it is.
yeah.
But.
So I was reading the story behind it. So her son disappears, and they try to blame her for the murder. And then they return a child to her
That say it's her son, and
that says it's not her son.
Yeah, I'm familiar with the story.
It's just really strange.
Yeah. Well, that was a different time too. I mean, it was the 20s.
Yeah, it was March 28.
Okay, so yeah, I mean, weird things happened back then. Things that we just think there's no way that could happen. There's no way no one would do that, and they just did. I mean,
yeah.
You know.
There's and then there's this. I don't know how you say this. Is a Voynich
Looks like it. Voynich
manuscript. So it's this roughly 200-page book that's written in an entirely unknown language.
Yeah, I've heard of it too. I didn't know that's what it's called.
Carbon dating takes it back to the 1400s.
Yeah.
And that's kind of interesting because you figure
that's not so far back that we wouldn't know the languages at the time.
Yes.
But yeah, it is fascinating. You said 14th century?
1400s.
1400s. So yeah, 15th
century.
So that's the time of Shakespeare.
Its first
Shakespeare was 1500s.
Its first confirmed owner was this guy in the late 1500s, early 1600s, who was an alchemist from Prague.
Okay. Well, I mean, theoretically, it could just.
But he said he discovered it taking up space in the library.
Huh.
So, but he never figured out what any of it was either. It's just really strange.
Yeah, and there's still people trying to decipher what it means.
Yeah. Huh. It's probably nothing. It's probably some
made up language, for some small cult or something.
Probably something like that.
There was it was found by an alchemist. It was probably written by a wannabe sorcerer or alchemist of the time anyway. But yeah, I don't know. There's, like I said, there's so many of these stories that I've watched and really wanted to bring up, and I just can't for the life of me remember half of them now.
Oh, here's the one I was talking about, the dogs.
Oh, the bridge?
Yeah, since the early 1960s, over 50 dogs have died and hundreds more have been injured jumping off this bridge. It's in Scotland.
Okay. It looks like kind of a very rural or remote kind of area too.
Yeah. Really strange. But apparently the Scottish Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals have investigated it several times and can't figure out what's going on. And
they've ruled out human interaction or intervention with that, right? I mean, it's not just some weird psycho who kills dogs and then just dumps them there.
No, because they're dying from the fall.
Okay. Well, it doesn't mean
I guess they could be thrown.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's like the suicide forest in Japan.
Yeah. Which I don't know that much about. I always tell myself that I'd love to see these places, but and again, I'm not a superstitious person. I'm not easily frightened, but I just think, I've seen enough horror movies to know that even though I'm not the believer and I'm the skeptic, I have just as much chance of falling victim to this shit as anybody else. So,
and kind of along the same lines as crazy kind of weird things that happen.
Well, that's kind of all we've been talking about, really.
Yeah, no, I guess. But so apparently on the morning of June 30th, 1908, there was 770 square miles in a forest in Siberia that was completely flattened.
Yeah, by a meteorite.
Yeah, but there's no evidence of anything ever hitting the earth.
They suspect it exploded before it hit the ground.
But 770 square miles, that's a big fucking chunk of land.
Yeah.
Big chunk of land.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure they've pretty much decided that was a meteorite.
Yeah, they say it may have been an asteroid that exploded over the earth, but still it's...
And it would account for the devastation. I don't know. Personally, I think even if it exploded, there would be some kind of crater at the point where it exploded. But depending on how high it was,
Yeah.
And again, it being if it was high enough, it would have. It would accommodate more the distance that it covered too. So.
Well, it's like there's a cruise ship. God, I don't remember the name of it. Mary Celeste or something like that. It was a boat that they found completely abandoned at sea.
I think I've heard of that one too.
And they could never figure out why everyone on this boat
was gone.
Because
there's nothing wrong with the ship.
No. So they think it might have been pirates, but if they're pirates,
they usually would have burned the ship,
or they would have taken everything was still on the boat, all the loot, everything,
nothing was
taken.
Yeah.
Everything they were carrying was still there. So one of the things that they were thinking was there might have been an explosion, but one that burns itself out before it catches anything on fire.
That sounds
weird. And I don't have it up on the computer.
How would that explain the law? There was no. I don't remember there being any physical evidence of people.
But there's a boat. There was one boat that was gone. So what they were thinking was whatever this was, this explosion or whatever,
scared everyone off the ship.
But they never made it anywhere.
But then, well, I guess they could have still died at sea.
Yeah.
But yeah, there would have had to been even that weird type of explosion. There should have been damage to something. If something exploded, even if the explosion burns itself out, something exploded. So there's some damage involved.
So it was December 4th, 1872. The boat was found adrift in the Atlantic Ocean.
There were steamships at that point, weren't there?
I don't know.
Because I don't know. That seems awfully long ago.
But this said the cargo was still fully intact except for a lifeboat, which appeared to be boarded in orderly fashion.
Yeah, because there was no sign of chaos on the ship.
Yeah. The boat had set sail from New York. It was bound for Italy. There was enough supplies on board for enough for 6 months. Blah, 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 blah. Let's see. Ship's daily log reveals nothing unusual. Theories over the years include mutiny, which you would think something would
you would have seen. There would have been chaos.
Yeah. Same with a pirate attack.
Yeah.
It also says an assault by a giant octopus or sea monster.
Again, there would be damage.
But what I'm saying though is you have to remember this is the mid 1800s.
Yeah, I get it.
A sea monster would. But if you're scared by a sea monster, would you really get in a tiny fucking boat and get off your big boat?
Right.
I guess that really doesn't.
Well, I was
make sense.
thinking they thought that the sea monster took them all off the boat, but they would have damaged the ship. So, yeah, I don't know. That is a weird one though.
But I was trying to look through here if it said anything about that damn fire.
The theoretical explosion.
Yeah,
that's why I'm asking if it's a steamship, because if it wasn't a steamship, it would have had to have been an old school sailing vessel, which would have had nothing to explode on it except for gunpowder.
In recent years, scientists have posed a theory that fumes from alcohol on board caused an explosion that, as a result of a scientific anomaly, did not leave behind signs of burning, but was terrifying enough that the captain ordered everyone off in the lifeboat.
Huh. Would one lifeboat have covered the entire crew?
Yeah, because I don't think it was a really huge boat.
Huh.
And the picture they show here is a
sailing
ship.
Yeah. Indicative of the 1800s, but
yeah.
When you said 1870 something?
I don't think they would have
I just don't remember when steamships were first
introduced. I think it was late after that. I mean, and they might have been around then, but they probably weren't really popular.
Well, I mean, we had submarines, early stage submarines in the 1860s.
Yeah.
So I guess they would have had to have metal ships that were run on steam power. And we had steam engines for trains.
And what I'm saying, though, is that I don't think it was really all that... It might have been that popular.
Right. Well, they would have been super
1870s.
Expensive.
Yeah.
Super expensive to build, too.
So, yeah, that's really strange. So I guess they're saying it could have been an explosion from the alcohol. Fumes from the alcohol.
Interesting.
So I guess it would burn. It would burn the fumes, and maybe not the source. Maybe.
Well,
so maybe
alcohol burns very fast,
but
they're hot. It just maybe I don't know if you've ever like spilled. I like to burn alcohol. I think it's fun, but you can put it on a surface and light it on fire, and it burns away faster than it would catch anything on fire.
Yeah. Well, like with gasoline's not flammable.
Right. It's
the fumes are.
Right.
So what if it was something like that? And the fumes
engulfed
and then
scared everybody off.
Yeah.
But I still, I mean, unless the whole crew, like I said, would the whole crew fit in one lifeboat?
Apparently so, because that's what they said.
Okay. Well, yeah, it's interesting. It's like
I guess if you only have, like, say, 15, 20 people on a boat.
Well, it depends on the size of the ship. Depending on how many people there are. I mean, if you can fit all the crew on one lifeboat, why would you have multiple lifeboats? That's kind of what I'm asking.
Oh, it says, I'm sorry, right here. It had a captain, 7 crew members, the captain's wife, and their 2-year-old daughter. So I guess it wasn't a whole lot of people.
No. Huh.
So 7, 8, so there's 10 people on board. They can fit in a lifeboat.
Yeah, they could all fit in a lifeboat. Scary thing is that if they all perished at sea, they'd probably died of dehydration and starvation.
Well, they probably eat each other.
Well, to a point, but how do you cook that meat? I know if you're starving, you don't worry too much about it, but even so, some of them had to have died of starvation, and they all probably died of dehydration long before they got to that point.
Yeah.
And those are terrible ways to die, from what I understand. But just real quick, maybe this could be our wrap up.
Oh yeah, because we're getting kind of long now.
Yeah. There's a lot of information on this case. The documentaries, West Memphis 3.
Yeah. Well, I guess that's a good one.
Well, just in the sense that...
And if you guys don't know the case, there's several documentaries that are really good.
There's three really good ones called Paradise Lost.
Yep.
There's Paradise Lost 1, 2, and 3. And it's made kind of obvious that the 3 young men who were arrested for the crimes most likely didn't do it.
Yes.
Which leaves the question, who did? And that's a question that, aside from a few people, have never really tried to answer.
Yeah. And
as far as the state's concerned, in order for the West Memphis 3, I guess I'm going to spoil the whole story, but it's out there. The main guy of the 3 was on death row. And Damien Eccles.
Yeah.
And there was enough evidence to get their conviction overturned, but it wasn't likely they'd be able to do it before his execution.
Uh-huh.
So their lawyers managed to get a plea bargain to get them all out of jail, and all they had to do was sign a statement saying that they were convicted, or there was sufficient evidence for their conviction, though they maintained their innocence.
Yes.
Which is essentially a way for them to be for the state not to be sued for false imprisonment.
Uh-huh.
Essentially, that's all that was. The fact that they were let go, in my opinion, is the state admitting they were wrong.
Exactly.
Or at least the evidence they had, which, if you watch the documentaries, was circumstantial at best.
Yes, it was.
So, circumstantial, and one confession that was coerced from a young man,
mentally challenged
young man whose IQ was rated at 80. 70 is like incapable of taking care of yourself, and he was only 10 points above that.
Yeah.
So, and he was held and interrogated for 24 hours. He would have said anything. He was manipulated. So you have very circumstantial evidence and that one poorly obtained confession.
Mm-hmm.
And they were basically convicted on the fact that they listened to heavy metal music and wore black. That was essentially what convicted them.
Pretty much.
In the end. Most people, I think, have seen the documentary, so you know what I'm talking about. That doesn't necessarily mean that they were innocent.
No, it doesn't.
I'm inclined to believe they were innocent.
Yeah, I didn't. From the
very beginning.
From the very beginning,
I
thought they were.
I was inclined to believe they were innocent, but you should,
And I wouldn't say innocent. I would say not guilty.
Well, innocent of the murders.
I don't think that there was that they were guilty beyond a shadow of a doubt.
Right. And the evidence they had was, like I said, there was no real physical evidence.
No.
They found a knife. They couldn't even guarantee that was the knife, and it was found in the bottom of a lake.
Yeah.
Behind Jason Baldwin's house.
Mm-hmm.
He said it was his, but they never connected that knife to the murders, even though it just was a big knife and it could have been used. They never connected.
No.
There was no real physical evidence.
Mm-hmm. And
then you figure in motive, the motive that the state produced, that they present.
Well, they were devil worshippers.
That they were devil worshippers.
And it was some satanic ritual.
Which, those things don't happen.
They do.
No, they don't.
They do.
Human sacrifices in the 21st century. I mean, come on. Most Satanists are just people. It was the 20th
century, but okay.
It was the late 20th century. It was 1993.
I know that.
So, I mean, come on. That shit doesn't happen. Granted, they were teenagers. They may not understand that. And they were from Arkansas.
But you can't say that it doesn't happen.
It's very unlikely that level of what most people consider to be satanic worship actually fucking happens.
Yeah.
But anyway, that aside, if they're not guilty, and I'm inclined to believe that they're not, and I would go as far as to say probably innocent.
Yeah.
If they're not guilty, they didn't do it, so they're innocent of the crime.
Well,
I know there's a legal distinction there.
If they're not guilty, I mean, just there's
not sufficient evidence to prove that they were guilty, but there is a possibility of complete innocence too. Because quite honestly, if they didn't do it, they're innocent, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, you're splitting hairs on the legal terms.
I know that. Well, because I've got a legal background,
right.
so that's the way I look at things.
But there is an idea of innocence that could potentially be there. So I guess the question then, like I said, the question then becomes, who did do it?
Yeah.
And they do point out, I think, in the second film that it was not reported at the time, but a homeless man had shown up at a restaurant not far from where the woods are. Yeah. Covered in blood.
And by the way, on a side note, they cut all the woods down.
Oh, they're gone now?
Yeah, the Robin Hood Hills or whatever it is. Yeah, they cut all the woods down.
They weren't all cut down in the third movie, but that was
this is
very recent.
Yeah,
they made a movie about it too with I think Greg Kinnear's in it.
Did they really?
Yeah, it's called The Devil's Knot.
Oh, huh.
I haven't watched the movie. I have no interest. I've seen the documentaries. Yeah. I've heard these accounts of these people, and I just know the movie's going to piss me off.
I don't know. You got anything else you want to add though, or?
Not that I can think of. That one just kind of popped into my head at the end. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's an unsolved murder. These boys were mutilated.
Yeah, they were.
This wasn't just murder. This was mutilation.
Yeah, it was bad. Well, and they show
you can see the pictures.
They show the bodies in the documentaries,
and it's gruesome. It's pretty gruesome.
It is. Well, on that note,
yeah.
Let's end it on a high.
Sure.
I was trying to talk about 500-year-old manuscripts that we can't read. You want to go into child murders?
Well, that's what the documentary is called, the child murders of Robin Hood Hills.
Yeah,
so Paradise Lost. But anyway, yeah, check out those. They're well-made documentaries, and it does kind of put into light and don't take this personally, but the strange superstitions of the Bible Belt.
Well, no, because Arkansas isn't really part of the Bible Belt.
It's that part of Arkansas is very much Bible Belt.
No, it's not.
Bible Belt-like.
No, I wouldn't say it is. I mean, because have you been to West Tennessee?
That's not Tennessee.
I know that. I know, but it happened right across the bridge in Arkansas.
Okay.
From Tennessee. I wouldn't classify that Memphis and that as part of that.
Well, I mean, watch the documentary. I'm saying that area.
I would say
there's areas in Michigan that I would classify as Bible Belt-like. Okay? Because they're rural.
I would say it's a poor rural area.
And those areas tend to be very Bible Belt-like. I'm not saying it in a derogatory way. I mean, it may come off that way, and I may think that way, but I'm not saying it that way, okay?
So many questions, comments, you can email us at contact. Because you're just going to keep going on about it.
I will.
contact@lifeandjournalpodcast.com. Check us out on Facebook and on Twitter, and check out our website, and that's about it. I guess you can go on iTunes or Podbean and leave us a review. Or
sure.
share the show with someone that might like the show.
Yeah.
Or that's about it.
Let us know if this dark stuff works for you, because we're always trying to find new stuff, because we just don't want to do politics that often.
Yeah, I'm kind of tired.
Well, we're just done with it. I mean,
I don't even want to talk about my personal life either.
Yeah, I mean, I'm kind of getting to that point too.
It's like,
I mean, we will eventually have to do some political shows once like the 2018 elections come up, but that's a ways away. And
yeah, we have some time.
We have some time.
A couple months.
To
But all right, well, that's about all I got.
yeah, talk to y'all later.
Until next time, peace.
Play my role, let me tell you about it. This shit right here, man, I'm proud about it. Only real niggas reside around me. Yo, lady, drop a crowd around me. Dip like I know you can, bitch. Show me the ropes like we in the ring. Got you two cobras, you wanna hang. Shoulder to shoulder, them niggas basic. You know I won't lie. You know that I ain't for that fuck shit. You niggas alright, but I'm way better and she love it. Know that y'all sick as fuck. Here go this tissue, bro. We taking the dub, hoping you get you some. This hit like a pick me up. She taking my drugs. Know they see the sign. That's some dollar signs. Know they sick as fuck. Know they sick as fuck. Tell them get well soon. Tell them get well soon. Know you sick as fuck. Get well soon.
Oh shit. Watch out, you the car, Billy. Oh shit. Right now, and I'm smiling in your face, bitch. With a gold smile, you should probably make placement to your eye. Niggas sick as fuck. Standing with niggas who down for that party. Who down for some bitches who showing their bodies. Swear to God, nigga, this Molly got me up and rolling. These bodies of water. Bring that shit in bottles.